Yo, Candace Owens just ripped the lid off something Hollywood spent 15 years burying, and it's about Justin Bieber when he was barely a teenager. What she exposed about Diddy, those resurfaced clips, and what allegedly went down behind closed doors. Bro, this is nuclear. Industry vets are sweating, publicists are panicking, and the receipts are uglier than anybody wanted to admit. And Sean Combs really thought these tapes would stay buried forever? Brody picked the worst era to have an internet. Before we get into it, subscribe, don't miss it. Nah? Candace Owens. Yeah, the same Candace who's been swinging at Hollywood for years, went fully off on Sean Diddy Combs after re-watching old footage of 13 to 15-year-old Justin Drew Bieber, the Stratford kid Scooter Braun pulled off YouTube. She broke it all down on her show, episode aired late 2024, posted to her YouTube channel and X account, dissecting the infamous 48 Hours with Diddy clip Bieber uploaded back in November 2009. Diddy really thought a video where he claimed custody of a teenager was gonna age well? Bro didn't think this through. Now let's look at the receipts that show why this is way darker than people remember. Let's start with a tape that has a whole internet sick. In that November 2009 YouTube upload titled Justin Bieber's 48 Hours with Diddy, Diddy looks dead into the camera and says, "You ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him." He then catches himself and adds, I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. And we're going full buck, full crazy. Bro said what? Full buck, full crazy with somebody's 15-year-old child? When I heard that line again as a grown man, I had to pause the video. That's not a flex, that's a confession waiting to happen. Then Candace pulled up the other clip, the one where Diddy corners a teenage Bieber on camera and asks, "You ain't been calling me and hang out the way we used to hang out." Justin awkwardly responds, "You tried to get in contact with me through all my business partners. You never really got my number." When I read this, I had to do a double take. A grown 40-something man publicly guilt-tripping a child for not picking up his calls? Nah, that line right there, that's where Diddy lost the plot. Now let's flip to Justin's own words. In his February 2020 sit-down with Zane Lowe on Apple Music, talking about Billie Eilish, Bieber broke down crying and said, "It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone telling me they love me and then turn their back on you in a second. I don't want her to go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody." Yo, watching that clip back hits different now. His sobbing on camera, clearly wrestling with something he can't or won't fully name. That ain't a man talking about industry stress. That's somebody carrying weight. Then there's Usher's August 2016 Howard Stern interview, where the king of R&B casually says, "I moved to New York City and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year. That was L.A. Reid's idea. We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp." When Stern asks what he saw, Usher laughs and says, "It was curious. I got a chance to see some things. I went there to see the lifestyle and I saw it." Stern then asks the question that haunts the whole interview, "But you were 13. What were you seeing?" And the kicker, when Stern asked if Usher would send his OWN kids there, Usher said, "Hell no." Brew, hell no? But you let Justin go? That's where my brain broke. When I read that, I was like, nah, you can't say that and expect people to take you seriously after the fact. And the receipt that ties it all together, the February 2024 federal lawsuit filed by producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones, which alleges Combs ran widespread and dangerous parties where, according to complaint, unbeknownst to the partygoers, Combs would pour out the liquor bottles and replace the contents with other drugs. When I read those allegations and then rewatched the old Bieber Trey Songs of Odell Beckham Jr. party clips Candace referenced, the ones where Justin clearly looks impaired, bro, my stomach dropped. Now that we got the quotes, let's connect the dots. Here's what nobody is sequencing properly. The 48 Hours video dropped November 2009. The Usher Howard Stern confession about Flavor Camp, August 2016, 7 years later, after Bieber's whole public meltdown era. The Bieber Zane Lowe tearful interview, February 2020. The Lil Rod lawsuit, February 2024. And the federal indictment of Combs, September 2024. When you line those dots up, the pattern isn't random. It's a slow-motion exposure unfolding in public. Remember that interview? Dropped 48 hours after another tearful Bieber moment went viral on socials, which is why fans started rewinding everything. And the timing of the Howard Stern admission is the part nobody discusses. Usher gave that hell no answer in 2016, the exact same year Bieber publicly canceled meet and greet citing emotional distress. That's not coincidence. That's a man who spent years keeping quiet finally cracking on national radio. His statement came right when Diddy's name was already buzzing in industry whisper networks. Now zoom out on the relationships. Scooter Braun signs Bieber off YouTube in 2008, flies him to Atlanta, joint ventures him through RBMG with Usher. Usher came up under Diddy. Diddy came up under Andre Harrow. The whole pipeline is daisy-chained. So when Justin lands in the industry, he's not landing in some neutral zone. He's landing inside a circle Usher himself called Dangerous on Howard Stern. So Diddy uploaded that custody video 3 days after Bieber officially became a global superstar with one-time charting? That's terrible timing. Brew. Any handler with a brain would have buried that footage in 2010 when the clouds first started forming. But Diddy isn't smart. He lived for the camera, so much so that he forgot the camera lived forever. The platform pattern is its own evidence. Notice how every single one of these damning clips wasn't leaked by a hacker. They were uploaded by Diddy or his people on official YouTube channels and Instagram accounts. He posted his own indictment. Mr. Combs really thought nobody would connect these dots? That's when you know the man was operating with zero strategic advisors and pure ego. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Now check this out. Nobody's talking about the wording. In the 48 Hours clip, Diddy says we can't really disclose and then immediately giggles. Zoom into that single phrase. Can't disclose isn't normal language for sleepover. Can't disclose is legal language. It's what you say when you already know whatever you're doing carries liability. And he said it in front of a camera. To a child. Casually. That ain't a slip. That's a man so comfortable in his behavior, he forgot that comfort itself is a tell. Now zoom into Diddy's exact phrasing. I've been given custody. Not his hanging out with me. Not we're vibing. Custody. That word is intentional. Custody implies legal authority over a minor, and the fact that Diddy felt the need to walk it back mid-sentence, I don't have legal guardianship, tells you he knew that word was loaded the second it left his mouth. And Diddy really didn't catch how that would sound on rewatch? That's embarrassing. Forensic on Usher's specific word choice was Stone. He says, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things. Curious is a clean-up word. Some things is a deflection. A man with nothing to hide would have said it was wild but harmless or nothing crazy. Instead, Usher used vague nouns and hedging adjectives. That's the verbal fingerprint of someone telling 60% of the truth. Now, the Bieber Zane Low forensic. Watch Justin's hand movement in that clip. Every time he says a word protect, his right hand grips the chair. Every time he says, I don't want her to go through anything I went through. He looks down, not at Zane. Trauma response 101. That ain't an artist promoting an album. That's a 25-year-old man doing therapy in real time on Apple Music. And did his defenders really thought that interview was unrelated? If they had half a brain, they would have connected the wording to the timing. Pattern forensics on the language Bieber uses across years. Loss, hurt, didn't know where to turn. People who turn their back. Protect. Same vocabulary. Same emotional register. Across multiple interviews, multiple years, multiple platforms. That's not artistic theme. That's a man circling the same wound, waiting for someone to ask the right question. Now let's see how the media covered this. Complex and hip-hop DX framed Candace's takedown as another conservative pundit jumping on the Diddy pile. Newsweek played it more straight, leading with Diddy's own word from the resurfaced video and letting the footage speak. Fandom Wire framed it as an open secret finally being spoken out loud. And honestly, that framing matched the receipts more than Complex's spin did. People magazine, when the Bieber Zane Low clip first dropped in 2020, framed it as a sweet story. Bieber tearfully talks about protecting Billie Eilish. Heart emoji. On moment. But remember those tears from earlier? That's not what was being expressed in that interview. People magazine missed the assignment in 2020, and they are running the same soft framing now. Yahoo and AOL ran the 48-hour story with the same wire copy, framing it as footage resurfaces, passive language, no accountability assigned. Notice nobody saying Diddy posted that energy himself. The framing protects him by making it sound like the video appeared out of thin air. Now some Diddy supporters online are saying Justin was just doing teenage party stuff. This is a reach. But those are the same people who thought the cassette video was a deepfake until the FBI confirmed it. The media trying to spin this a Combs, but the receipts, Usher's own hell no, Lil Rod's federal complaint, Bieber's tears, don't lie. If you still think Diddy has a defense after all this evidence, you're just biased. But here's what nobody is saying. Mainstream media wants you to think this is a Diddy problem. Like it's one bad apple, one rogue mogul who slipped through the cracks. Here's what they won't tell you. This is an industry politics story, not a Diddy story. Diddy is a symptom. The pipeline is a disease. Here's the real angle. The entire major label system in the late 2000s ran on what insiders called mentorship handoffs. A young artist signs with Star. That Star connected to a mogul. The mogul has access. That's a chain. Scooter Braun ushered Diddy. That's not a coincidence. That's an infrastructure. And every adult in that chain knew exactly what Puffy Flavor Camp was, because Usher already came out of it broken enough to tell Howard Stern hell no about his own kids. Diddy is a puppet of a system that needed feeders, and the system used him because he liked being used that way. That tearful Zane Lowe interview? Here's the real reason Bieber said what he said. He wasn't just protecting Billie Eilish from fame. He was protecting her from the same pipeline that ate him. And he couldn't say it out loud in 2020 because Scooter still had his masters, the label still owned his future, and Diddy was still untouchable. Mr. Combs was a boogeyman of the industry, and everyone knew it. Industry vets like 50 Cent have been hinting at this for over a decade in interviews and on social media. The industry needed Diddy to fail publicly before anybody could speak, and now that the federal indictment hit, the floodgates opened. Here's the historical pattern most media won't touch. This isn't new. We saw this same pipeline with Aaron Carter, with Britney Spears, with a Lou Pullman situation that birthed Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. The playbook of give us a talented kid, we'll make them rich, they pay with their childhood, is older than hip-hop itself. Diddy is repeating the same mistakes that ended Lou Pullman in a federal prison. We've seen this before. Combs is on the losing side of history and is too arrogant to realize it. And here's a cultural impact angle nobody wants to admit. Diddy represents the old guard of the culture is done with. Hip-hop has always celebrated mogul status, the chain, the access, the parties. But Gen Z is watching all of this and asking WH why the kids were ever there in the first place. That's a generational shift. The era of the mogul get a pass because he made you rich is over. Combs is watching the culture move on without him, and there's nothing he can do from a federal cell. The forbidden take? Candace Owens isn't doing this because she suddenly cares about hip-hop. She's doing it because the story is finally safe to tell. Notice nobody in the rap media, not The Breakfast Club, not Joe Budden, not academics, went as hard as Candace did, and they all knew. They knew in 2009. They knew in 2016. They knew in 2020. But they needed an outsider to break the seal because the inside was too compromised. Combs is playing checkers while the culture is playing chess, and every move Diddy made for 30 years was being recorded in a way that would eventually destroy him. And that's the truth they won't tell you. So what happens next? Here's what's most likely to happen. Justin Bieber is gonna break his silence. Not in an interview, in a documentary or in a song. Mark my words, when that drop hits, every single person who laughed at his meltdown era is gonna feel sick. The clips are gonna recontextualize a decade of headlines. And when Combs is sitting in federal court watching that footage played as evidence, he's gonna look desperate screaming into a void that already moved on. The silence from Justin is gonna hurt Diddy more than any deposition could. Bieber doesn't have to say a word. His tears in that 2020 Apple Music sit-down already testified. Now, if Justin does decide to take the legal route instead, watch what happens. Combs is not ready for Bieber civil filing. We saw what happened when Cassie filed, settled in 24 hours and still ended up in federal custody. If Bieber files anything alleging what those 2009 tapes imply, the case won't even reach trial. Diddy's legal team will be writing checks faster than they can read complaints. And every other artist who came up through that pipeline, the ones still scared to talk, will see the playbook and follow. Combs is gonna get destroyed in discovery if Bieber pulls that trigger. Watch the second wave of victims. When this thing fully cracks open, we're gonna hear names that have been whispered for years finally said out loud. Child stars, R&B singers from the 2000s, kids from the 106 and Park era. The dam is built on Diddy. When Diddy goes down for good in the federal trial, the dam breaks. Combs' whole crew of enablers, managers, executives, handlers, they're sitting at home right now hoping their names don't surface. They will. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Looking at the bigger picture, this is going to be the moment the music industry's child protection laws finally get rewritten. Bills are already being introduced in California modeled after the Coogan law for digital-era artists. 5 years from now, people will look back at the Bieber-Diddy footage as the evidence that finally forced legislative change. Diddy's legacy isn't just going to be tarnished, it's going to be the cautionary tale taught in entertainment law classes. Every aspiring industry mogul is gonna study Combs the way business schools study Enron. That's not legacy. That's warning label status. And Justin's legacy? Elevated. He goes from the kid who melted down to the kid who survived a system designed to break him. The whole Bieber was a mess narrative is about to be replaced with Bieber was a hostage. Every think piece written about him in 2014 is gonna age like milk left in the sun. The kid who Candace, in her own words, said was 13, and that fact alone should make people stop and think about everything differently, is about to get the cultural reevaluation he deserved a decade ago. Whatever happens, one thing's clear, Sean Combs already lost. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed uncovering the real story, smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss when we expose what everyone else is too scared to say. Ring that bell for notifications. And if you want more truth bombs like this, click on one of these videos next. Trust me, you'll want to see what we found.